Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Tuba People TV, where we talk about Arnold Jacobs all of the time. Puddles and I, and Emily, are here in Cresskill, New Jersey with Jack Schatz. Jack, thanks for inviting us into your house.
Well, thanks for being here.
Into the man cave.
The man cave, that's right.
Jack is a New York area freelance-based trombonist, and I do see a tuba here in the corner.
It's in the corner.
And also had some studies with Arnold Jacobs. Can you take us back to those initial lessons?
Yes. As I was telling you earlier, I grew up in New York City and went to Queens College and then got a scholarship to go to Juilliard. Had some great teachers, Erwin Price, Simon Karasik, and then Don Harwood at Juilliard, and was kind of ensconced into the New York freelance scene where I was doing concert work and was busy, very busy in the studios for 20, 25 years. But my early experiences when I got out of Juilliard was making finals on a couple of big auditions, Cincinnati and Baltimore. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden people find out, oh yeah, this guy made the finals, and I started getting called to sub in the Philharmonic and then the Met. And when I started subbing in the Met, I met Steve Norrell and went up to his house and played duets and was really impressed with Steve's approach and his playing and stuff. And subsequently I took some lessons with Steve, and he really turned me on to the whole Jacobs theory of song and wind. And up until that point, even though I was becoming successful in the New York City freelance scene and doing well at auditions, I always felt that there was something lacking in my playing. You know, I practiced and practiced, but I wasn't happy with certain things.
Yeah.
And basically, by studying with Steve, he helped me through these inadequacies that I was having, and really got me to start buzzing my mouthpiece, which I didn't do much of before that, and slow the air down and stuff like that. And that was 1988. So I was really diligent about this. And then in early 1990, I think it was March of 1990, I found out I was going to be working in Chicago doing the Chicago Jazz Festival, and I said, well, this is a perfect opportunity to go see Jacobs. So I called him up, and in sufficient time enough, because I knew he was busy, and I scheduled a lesson at this place.
Fine Arts Building?
Fine Arts Building. Okay. And it was just a complete eye-opening experience. I mean, a lot of it was what I had been working on that Steve gave me, but a lot of it was like everything was in 3D, three-dimensional. He really got me to start thinking about things I had never thought about before. It's the advantage of studying with someone like him and other great teachers too. I always say that great teachers enable you to they're able to open these mental windows that ordinarily are not open, and all of a sudden give you something to think about that really enables you to be a better player on every level. He had me hooked up to all the machines, and you know, I'm about 6'5", and he couldn't understand why somebody my size didn't have the air capacity. He said, you should have at least a 6-liter air capacity, and it was just barely like 4.5 liters.
Wow, that is shockingly low.
Well, yeah, we didn't know what was going on,
right,
you know.
Right.
But he kept working at it, and he really got me to start thinking about visualization, and I'd never heard anybody talk about the anatomical structure of the facial muscles the way he did, and how he had a label for everything. And you know, you talked about the protractors and the reactors and mouthpiece and this and the visualizer, which I didn't have then. Of course, I have it now. It's one of my handy-dandy tools. Yeah. It's just conceptually, it really bridged a lot of gaps for me. And also, he was gracious enough to say, hey, you know, these things that I'm teaching you are just should be just a tool in your toolbox. You know, he said a carpenter doesn't go to a job with one tool and one hammer. And
that's a great analogy.
Yeah, he said he has several different hammers and several different screwdrivers and saws and so forth and so on, because he has to be able to use them. And it's just, you know, a lot of teachers say this is the only way, and he was very amenable to different things. I would play something that he liked, and he would really say, I like what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, but to him it was just another level. You know, he got me to really think about this and really think about air and ultimately playing music. You know, and visualization. Visualization is so important. Not to just, and I say this to my students, I would say, don't arbitrarily pick up the instrument and say, let's see what comes out today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you should have a vision of what you want it to sound like. And everything that we play should be music. You know, ultimately, it should always be musically inclined.
Was he talking about the trombone in the head and the trombone in the hands, or what was he talking about in terms of visualization? Or
visualizing in the head what you want it to sound like, and then visualizing what you want it to sound like as it's coming out. You know, what do you want it to sound like?
So listening to your head, while you're playing, instead of listening to your trombone.
Exactly, and think like a musician and not a trombone player. You know.
Yeah.
And that's so important too. We all, I mean, a lot of us, and you know, we're all guilty of it. At some point, we do this, and we just focus in, I am a trombone player, and boom. Instead of thinking in the big picture, which is we are musicians, and we have to fit in, and we are puzzle pieces that have to fit in musically, because otherwise it doesn't work. You know.
That's right.
So it was really great. I spent a couple of hours with him, but he was scratching his head. He couldn't understand why the whole air thing. I came back from Chicago Jazz and diligently worked on his stuff all summer. A lot of things were getting better. The air thing was still kind of hitting a wall. And at this time, I work out every day. I've been a cyclist for 25 years, and I was kept in good shape. And I had a physical before I turned 30, which was in September, and on the chest x-ray, it looked like I had 2 hearts. So where my heart was, it was, and then over here I had this huge tumor. And it was above my right lung, below my right rib cage. And 10 hours of surgery, 8 months of chemotherapy. It's pretty heavy. And I survived, and the following March, I was given a clean bill of health. And once I got my bearings together physically, I had not reached out to Jacobs through all this, but when I was given the clean bill of health and I was starting to feel up to it, I called him because I wanted to go out and see him. And he was having eye trouble. And he said, he says, if you come out to Chicago, call me when you get here, and I'll see if I can teach you. And I said, well, I'm coming out to see you. I wouldn't be coming out for no other reason. Yeah. And then I told him what happened to me, and dead silence on the other end of the phone. And then he said, when can you come? So I set up a date, went out to see him, and explained everything I had been through. And he was really great through it. And then, of course, now he's checking my air capacity, and it's over 6 liters of air. You know, and he goes, he had all these notes too, and I have a stack of notes in the closet of stuff. And he wanted to know every step of the surgery. He wanted to know what they did, how they did it, because with the surgery I had, because I had it in my chest, they had to, do a lot of rerouting and stuff, and I lost the phrenic nerve on the right side of my lung, which is the phrenic nerve. You have 2 phrenic nerves, one on each side of your diaphragm, and they control this controls the diaphragm. So basically, I lost the one on the right, so now what I have is this.
Wow.
Okay. Now, because I'm a brass player and because I work out, See, on a chest X-ray, if somebody loses a phrenic nerve, you have diaphragm and you have this giant. But on mine, it looked just a little bit because I compensate for it. It's like having one kidney, or. But he was really upset that they removed the phrenic nerve, and he wanted to know why. And I actually knew the answer because I asked the surgeon, and he said it wasn't functioning.
Oh.
It was totally engulfed in disease.
Oh.
It's disease. And so I have one phrenic nerve that's controlling the entire diaphragm. And so, it's my job to stay in shape and stay, because I have to do that. Otherwise, and as we talked about, as we get older, we lose air capacity, and so we have to do that. So he was so gracious through that entire time, because I saw him. I took a total of 8 lessons with him. One at that time for several hours. And he worked with me with the incentive spirometer and.
What was he trying to do?
Well, he was trying to get me to. He said it was really important for me to build the strength in the diaphragm.
Oh.
And that's why we use the bolt-on spirometers, and because he says that's weightlifting for your diaphragm.
Okay.
And it's so important to have resistance to develop the strength in the diaphragm. Especially because I had been through the physical aspect as well as the chemical aspect of going through all that stuff. But like I told you before, this is what I do every time I sit down to practice. I do 45 minutes of breathing and buzzing exercises. It's not the same every day. It's different. The breathing exercises are essentially the same. But I saw him then, and then towards the end of the summer, or beginning of September of 1991, I saw him again. And then the next time I saw him was at Trenton State. He came and did a master class at Trenton State.
Yeah.
Saw him there. And then I used to do the Chicago Jazz Festival, almost every year, so I would,
You'd see him.
I'd see him. And that was, 24 years ago. It's been 24 years since all that happened. And every lesson was better, and I would look back from previous times every time I saw him and see how much he helped me. His concepts really helped me. And like I told you, he basically saved me.
That's fantastic. Was there with these different studies and exercises that he would have you do? Was there anything that he, like with the buzzing? Was there anything in particular that he wanted you to accomplish with the buzzing, or any way to approach it, or did you buzz tunes or drills? Or
I buzzed everything, and I continue to do that. What I really do every day is I don't do a lot of free buzzing with the mouthpiece itself. I do a lot of the buzzing I do is on the spirometer.
Oh, okay. So you're blowing into
blowing into the spirometer.
Yeah.
Especially in the low register on, as you know, you're a tuba player. Yeah. So playing soft and low is one of the hardest things to do. And by creating enough resistance on the spirometer and buzzing low shoes or anything, it was all about the development of the aperture and getting the wind behind the aperture to move really slowly and having the aperture work as efficiently as possible in order to produce the most beautiful sound. Call it the bathtub effect. You sit there and you watch the water go down real slow, and that's your airstream.
Right.
It's a concept. I remember when I first started studying with Steve and Jacobs simultaneously, how every time I sat down to play, whether it was practicing or at a job, I would always say, okay, what are you doing? Are you doing that? Are you incorporating this? How are you breathing? Like I have students that come in here and you could just hear them breathe. It sounds like nails scratching on a scratch.
Yeah.
And I put the tape machine on and go, okay, I want you to hear this. Silent breath. the sound of breath. Oh, you know.
Yeah.
I think because he suffered from sarcoid, he was really understanding of my deficiency because of the surgery. I don't think about that anymore because I'm beyond that. But as I get older, you have to be. There is some concern. So that's where staying in shape is physically is so important.
Yeah.
With cardio.
It seems like he spent a lot of time with you, just helping you to get through this trauma.
Yeah, but it was also incorporating getting through the trauma and making sure that what I had, my tools that I still had were working as efficiently as possible. You know what I mean? The buzzing, the slow wind, even though I had one phrenic nerve controlling the diaphragm, is that was working properly, and that I was able to achieve what I needed to achieve in order to be able to be viable, to be a player.
Did he ever did he ever give you the sense like, oh, you're in dire
No,
straits?
Never. He was always very respectful, as I was of he, and just, you know, he was great. You know, I mean, there was an aura about him, as you know. There was this, there was a soul. He was such a soulful man and a knowledgeable man. I mean, it's just like he knew everything. You know, he knew everything.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that feeling when I called him and told him that I wanted to schedule a lesson, and he was having all this eye trouble, and he just basically, I wouldn't say he blew me off, but he was like, I really don't have time for this. And then I told him what happened, and you could feel over the phone, wow, okay, I got you. I'll be there for you. You just, we'll set it up. Doesn't matter what I have to deal with. I'll take the time. Yeah. Because that's the kind of person he was.
Yeah, he was. He was very, very generous.
You know, I mean, I remember the only master class I went to that he ever gave was the one in Trenton, and it could have been Emily, an 11-year-old girl coming in there, and he would have been that in tune to what her needs were. Didn't matter who you were or who you are. Yeah. I remember in Downbeat magazine when J.J. Johnson
wrote his letter.
That's right.
Yeah.
And wow, I remember seeing that. I was like, whoa.
It's posted on my door at University of Oregon.
Right.
That's a great letter.
I mean, there he is right there.
Yeah.
Talking about articulation and things he had me do. Besides brochure studies, I brought the Sox trumpet studies in.
He liked that book.
He loved the book. An old teacher of mine, Simon Karasik, had me working through that book where I had to change treble clef to bass clef and add 4 flats and 3 sharps, and then play everything in mezzo soprano clef, because you had to be ready to do anything. And Jacobs' take on articulation was also visualization, in that the shape of every note had to be buoyant and round and rich and have purpose and have meaning, not hills and valleys in different shapes. And the continuity of the airstream. I remember he used an analogy one time where he said, if I had a flashlight and I shut the lights off, or not shut the lights off, if I just turn the flashlight on and the beam of light hits the wall on the other side of the room, it doesn't matter what shape I put in front of the flashlight, you will still see the light on the other side of the room. That is our sound. The sound has to be continuous.
Wow, I don't think I ever heard that before.
And
that's cool.
He says we're not totally covering the light to block it, but whatever articulation we use in forwarding the air does not stop. You can't impede the air. You have to keep it. You have to support it like a kite in the sky. No wind, kite goes down.
Yeah.
And his whole concept of song and wind and visualization and everything has to hold true with articulation as well as legato playing. I mean, the basis behind it, you know, it all makes sense. You know, I think about it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Every time I practice, I think, what would Jake say?
Wow.
You know, it's there, and that's good.
Yeah.
You know, that's good. It keeps you honest.
I think yeah, I think about them every day too. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. Just getting the air to the lips.
Right. And what's also interesting is I find that in incorporating all of Jacobs' methods, you can sit on a job, concert, rehearsal, whatever it is, and you can hear a brass player play and go, I know what he's not doing, or she's not doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would think, what would Jake say?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, you know, when you listen to the Chicago Symphony when he was in the orchestra, everyone was on the same page. You know, it's pretty amazing.
It was a great team.
It was an incredible team.
Yeah.
And
there was a great commitment to teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, there is today too. It's just, I don't know. There's something about it.
Yeah.
Back then that was different.
It's interesting. This is a little over a year ago at Manhattan School of Music. Jerry Pagano came in to do a master class, and Jerry and I went to Juilliard together.
Mm-hmm.
He's a terrific player, did a terrific job, and there was a trombone sectional that came in, Manhattan School of Music students, and they started playing, I think, Symphonic Metamorphosis, and they sounded good, but they really weren't listening to each other. It was all about, you know. Mm-hmm. And Jerry was being really great and trying to, you know, get them to understand what he was talking about successfully. And then they opened the forum, they opened up to questions and stuff, and I just raised my hand and I said, do any of you own the Chicago Symphony of Sound record, which is out on CD now? Mm-hmm. And 3 of the guys said, I don't know, what's that? You know? And the first remote verse said, I have it, but I haven't listened to it yet. And I said, okay, it's your duty to listen to this recording, because in the history of trombone, there has never been an orchestral CD recording of that magnitude. Mm-hmm. Where, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's just incredible. So you can learn so much from section playing, from the sound, and by studying with Jacobs, you kind of got the inside as to how that was working, at least for him. Mm-hmm. You know.
Did he ever demonstrate on the trombone for you, or
no.
tuba?
No.
Okay.
No.
I know occasionally you would, but not.
When I was at Juilliard and Chicago was in town, Kleinhammer came up and gave 3 of us a group lesson.
Oh, nice.
And that was, he played for us.
He's pretty intense.
It was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, I can't thank you enough for fitting us into your
My
schedule.
pleasure.
Puddles had been wanting to get to Cresskill, New Jersey for quite some time now.
That's what I hear.
And he's heard that they have quite a good flock of geese in the area.
They do, actually.
As well as ducks.
Yes.
But
ducks.
He, as always, has instructed me to present you with our thanks. This genuine University of Oregon beverage dispenser.
Well, I will use it wisely.
Hope you put it to good use. Diet Pepsi all the time, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And it's really great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks for the time and the opportunity.
Yeah, my pleasure.